How should you choose your coursework as a PhD student? This is an interesting subject that it really requires us to think about what is a PhD program as compared to an undergraduate program and even a master's program. In a master's program, in an undergraduate program especially, there is an encouragement and almost a sort of motif that the two things that you want to achieve is a kind of well-roundedness, a sort of holistic education, and then a deep dive in your chosen major, or maybe major, double major, whatever it might be. And so you have this breadth, and then you have this depth. And there's a further encouragement that the undergraduate and even the master's, to a certain extent, is about self-exploration. It's about sort of variety, a sort of diversity of experiences. And I agree with all of these things. And what is more is that, at least in my experience, undergrads rarely know much or care very much about who is teaching the courses. As long as the instructor is good, I would say that most undergrads don't really know whether or not that person is a visiting scholar, a postdoc, a grad student, a faculty member, emeritus, and the list goes on, if the instructor is solid. That's really what they care about. I've heard many undergrads refer to a graduate student instructor as Dr. So-and-so or Professor so-and-so because, in essence, too many undergrads, they're all professors, I guess, or they're all faculty. Well, when you are choosing coursework in grad school, and specifically for the PhD, the strategy is completely different. What do I mean? Well, one of the key elements that should factor, I think, into your selection of courses as a grad student is, beyond the core requirements of whatever your program might be, the required coursework, that one key element in governing or really guiding your selection of courses should be to audition your orals and comprehensive committee members and to audition members of your dissertation committee. And I really mean that, audition, where you are in the driver's seat, you're behind the table, and they are the ones who are in front of you kind of vying for a slot at this table. Now, I'm being a little bit facetious here, but the spirit of this holds. So think about this. You have these two major benchmarks out of a few different ones, but these two major benchmarks of the orals or comprehensive examinations, and then you have the dissertation writing process, and then, of course, if your department has a defense, that. Well, you need faculty members to be on both of these committees, and in many cases, they're going to be the same people. There might be some change from your orals to your dissertation committee, but chances are they're going to be the same people. Well, how do you meet those people? How do you know who to invite? How do you establish a relationship such that it's even reasonable for you to invite them? And then how do you increase the probability that they say yes when you do invite them? All of that comes back to coursework. So let's say you have two different scenarios. One is a scenario in which you have taken a course with a faculty member who is not your primary advisor, really established a good intellectual relationship, you did well in the course, you really did, you great work, you're really impressed with them as a faculty member, and then at the end of that class, you say, I'm thinking of doing an orals field or a comprehensive field in blah, blah, blah. Would you be on my committee? Could I do this examination with you? Okay, chances are very high that that person, unless they're retiring or leaving the institution or whatever it might be, very high they're going to say yes, and it's going to be the beginning of a very long-standing relationship. And what is more, chances are that many of the books that you read in that person's course, or the articles or the work that you did, is going to show up again on those orals. So you've basically already started the process of preparing with that faculty member. Okay, scenario 2 or scenario B, you take a bunch of courses sort of randomly chosen, and then you decide that you want to do a particular orals or comprehensive field, and you write a total out-of-the-blue email to someone who doesn't even maybe know you exist and say, hi, my name is, I want to do an orals field in this, would you do it? They may say no, or they may say, I would feel more comfortable doing this after we've had a chance to work together in a class, something of that nature. But even if they do say yes, it's a very brittle, sort of fragile relationship at this point. There's nothing there. You don't know if they're right for you, and they don't know how serious you are as a scholar, as a student. So, long story short, courses are a great way to establish that relationship and to figure out whether or not you want this person to be one of your mentors for the rest of your graduate program. Okay, so now how does this factor into the selection of courses? Well, let's be very, very concrete about this. You want to choose courses and prioritize those faculty members who you view as potential committee members. That's the simplest way to put it. If you think you're considering, let's say your department has a comprehensive examination where you have 4 fields. Well, one of them is your primary advisor, which means you have 3 slots left. Let's say you're imagining, you have some idea of what those 3 fields might be, either because of your own research interests or because of conventions in your department. Well, that is a great reason to take a course with a person that works in this, a person that works in this, a person that works in this, maybe like the most likely person for each of those fields. Maybe you have 4 ideas, but only 3 slots to fill, and so maybe you take 4 courses with 4 different faculty members, but that would likely be candidates for that role. Now, what does that mean in concrete terms, in terms of what courses you don't take? And what I'm about to say is a controversial statement, but I'm saying it on your behalf. Strategically, you want to limit the number of courses that you take as a graduate student with visiting scholars, postdocs, and basically other instructors with whom you have no chance of having a long-standing institutional relationship with. If you have a visiting scholar or a postdoc that's there for 1 year at your institution, and you're deciding between a course with them and a course with a potential dissertation committee member, in my view, you really want to seriously think about doing it with the faculty member that you might be able to have on your committee. Because if you think about a scenario in which all of your courses are with visiting scholars, with 1-year postdocs, and so forth, then the courses might be amazing. And by all means, there are some of these courses you should definitely take. But by the end of that year, everyone scatters. And suddenly you had an amazing coursework experience and no potential mentors because they've moved on to different institutions and they're going to be working with other people in a long-standing capacity. So when you're deciding this, unlike undergrad, when basically the decision is made based on requirements, the name of the course, the description of the course, and maybe the reading list, you in the PhD program need to think about the faculty member themselves. So in really practical terms, I would say that you want to, by all means, if there's a visiting scholar giving a one-time course in something that is absolutely critical to your work, take that course. If there's a postdoc doing something that is absolutely critical to your work and it's amazing, the one chance to study with them, then do that. But in my view, you do not want your overall coursework for those first 3 years to be overloaded with instructors with whom there is no institutional possibility of having a long-standing mentorship relationship with. So just a little piece of advice on a factor that not many people think about when they think about how to choose courses in a PhD program. I'll see you in the next tutorial.